Okay, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo. And well, on today's video, I'm making this special video talking about different budgets for different PCs depending on, well, how much you want to spend. And I'm going to be explaining the reasons why I selected the parts I did and my recommendations and why I selected them. And the reason I'm making this video is because somebody in my Spanish channel requested a video like this, and I thought it would be interesting to also offer this in my English channel. But before we start, I have to say in advance that this is probably going to be a long video because I'm going to try to explain the reasons I'm choosing the parts I'm choosing, so you have an idea of what I went through my mind. I'm sure many of you can optimize and improve on my building depending on your situation, your country, prices, and so on. That you don't have to follow my guide like to the letter. It's just that a guide to give you an idea. So there is different budgets. The second thing I have to say is that this is pointed towards gaming, okay? So the gaming and streaming and all of that, but it's not for work, okay? Of course they can work, but that's not the focus of these computers. So that means that if you want the best relation price performance so on, a console is still a better because it costs 500 or even less, and it's going to give you the performance that you're looking for, while the cheapest PC I'm going to be building is 750 and it's going to be roughly the same performance as a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. So of course, a computer is going to allow you to do a lot more than a console do, but that's just to let you know where we are. Prices, of course, are going to vary depending on the country, so this is once again a guide. You don't have to buy each piece or each brand or each exact model that I'm giving you here. Is just to give you a guide. Maybe I'm selecting an MSI board and in your country ASUS is cheaper, or Gigabyte or ASRock, whatever it is, so you can change the board. Of course, just you follow the chipset or the components you want in. Maybe you want something cheaper because you don't need 2 NVMe slots, or you prefer to lower the amount of RAM and have better more space for your games. All of that is your own decision, okay? But I think these guys are going to help you. But of course, each country is going to vary, not only on the prices of the component, but in terms of the brand, but also on the overall price, because whatever cost me, for example, $750, it may cost you over your country 900 or 1,000. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the economies we live in, but this, once again, is a guide. Another thing I have to say is that I'm talking here about building the tower, okay? What we call the CPU tower normally, which is the case and everything, okay? So that's important because obviously this does include OS. You can get the OS for an old license or anything you have around, or on some keys, CD key pages, or I'm not including a monitor, I'm not including a keyboard and mouse and so on. So those are all things that maybe you have lying around or not, but you have to take this into consideration. The prices I'm giving you today is only for the main CPU tower. And finally, as I said, some of the parts I'm going to be putting here are just like a placeholder. I mean, for example, I'm choosing a CPU cooler, and that CPU cooler, it's just there because you have to choose one in every case, and in most of situations the price is going to be the same. You can change that CPU cooler for whatever it is that you like, or something different or better. And also the fact that I'm not going for any kind of looks here. I do not care how my computer looks. I have never done that, so I don't care. I want just like the cheapest I can get, having the performance I can find. I don't care if I have to put like a Hello Kitty GPU in an orange case with the you know, like a blue fans. I don't care about the looks or colors, to be honest, but that's up to you. Of course, if you care about the looks and all of that, then this computer may cost you more. I went for what I think is good and practical. Like, for example, the case I'm using, I have tested myself. It's very good. Maybe it's not the most good looking case, but it's good enough for ventilation and everything. But if you want something fancier or not, well, that depends on you. My idea here is just to guide you. Okay, my friends, and so here we are. This is the first CPU. This is the first build that I'm going to be doing, and this is a $750 bill. I will call this the equivalent to a current gen console, like a PlayStation 5 sort of, sometimes more, sometimes less, it depends on the game, but sort of should give you equivalent of the same performance in some cases. Now the parts I'm choosing is the AMD Ryzen 7 5700X. I know the AM4 platform has sort of bypassed by AM5, but honestly I couldn't find anything to justify the price to be under 750. You could maybe buy a very cheap board, AM5 and a 7600X, but then the RAM was more and so on, while DDR4 is very cheap at the moment. So you should have to play and do some sacrifices. If I had only 750, this is what I would have done. So I would have gone with that CPU. And in the future, worst case scenario, I can buy a 5800 X3D use if the time requires. The CPU cooler, that's honestly a placeholder. It's just a Thermalright Peerless Assassin. It's very good, but I said that you should spend between $20 and $30 on a CPU cooler, and it should be more than sufficient for that CPU. As the motherboard, as you can see here, is a ASRock B550M. It's a micro ATX motherboard. It has everything you need. You are not going to miss anything, and you are not overclocking, and it should be more than enough to hold that CPU. And the VRMs are good as long as you are not overclocking or doing anything crazy. For the memory, it's just 3600 CL18, which is fast enough. It's very cheap. It's just 37 for 16 gigabytes. You know, you shouldn't go over that in terms of speed, because you're not going to take advantage of that. 1 terabyte of Crucial P3 1 terabyte, which is, for my point of view, a very reliable SSD NVMe. I have used myself and it's very good. It's not the fastest out there, but it will give you plenty of speed. For the video card, this is where things get tricky, because obviously we want to stay under budget. In this case, 750. I had to choose the Gigabyte Gaming OC Radeon RX 7600 8GB version. If you want to spend, or you can expend another $50 and go to 800, probably the 16GB version is going to do you better. But from my point of view, this is more than enough, and I wouldn't spend those extra 50 on that one, but that's up to you. As for the case where I have nothing against, or for this case in particular, for me it's just a placeholder here around $40, $47 with shipping. So you can either buy this or anything that costs around that. You don't need to go crazy, because this is not a very big build that you're going to have to spend a lot of you know, to keep it cool. And as the power supply, even though you can go with a lot less than this one, you can go for a 500 and maybe save some money there. I always like to, you know, think of the future. Putting a 650 watts for me is the best, because then if you want to change that GPU for something more powerful, you can, because the Ryzen 7 5700X should last you a long time, at least if you're trying to play at 60 FPS. In terms of resolution, this is a machine made thinking of 1080p from medium to high settings. As I said, it's equivalent or sort of similar to a PlayStation 5, so it should give you plenty of gaming years ahead of you. For a $750, I think this is a nice build that, you know, is going to introduce you into the wonderful world of PC gaming. Okay, so now with the $1,000 build, we are now finally jumping to the AM5 platform. In this case, as you can see, everything goes a little bit up, and you know, $250 make a world of difference in this case, because we have now a computer that is very powerful, much different than it was the previous one, which was very good, but this one surpasses any current gen console. In this case, we're using the 7600X. Even though it's a 6-core processor, it's faster than the 5700X for gaming and for most tasks, because even though it has less cores, those are much faster. So this is you're not going to notice any difference going from 8 to 6 cores in this case. Okay, for the CPU cooler, I have upgraded a little bit, just giving you a little bit more of budget to $45, just to give you more leeway. I'm not going to be using any liquid cooling in these builds, because I honestly don't like the maintenance at the cost of them, so I prefer always air, but that's up to you. And also, I'm going to be using only AMD Ryzen CPUs from now on, and no Intel, just because I don't like the fact that every time you have to change for Intel CPU, you basically have to change also the motherboard, and I prefer you to give something that is going to allow you to change some of the parts in the future, like going for a better CPU, because we already know, for example, that the AMD Ryzen 9000 series is going to be using the same AM5 socket, and they have extended now up to 2027, which means that you at least have 2 generations of CPU ahead of you with the same motherboard and RAM. So I think that's very important. So I'm going to be using only AMD from now on. So after that, well, we have a motherboard, the MSI Pro P65P, that which is, I think is a very good value CPU, and for the motherboard and for the CPU is going to be more than enough because the power consumption is not that big. For the memory is still 16 gigabytes of DDR5 6000. There is no point on going over that. The CL is a little bit high, but it's not that bad. You should have plenty of performance with this one. For the storage, we're still at 1 terabyte, but I went a little bit faster with the P3 Plus instead of the P3, so you're going to have a very nice performance. It's not the fastest drive around, but honestly I can really feel a difference when gaming from the different NVMe. They are fastest now, at least right now, so they don't make such a huge big difference. As for the GPU, this is, you know, as always when things get complicated, by looking at all of them, I think the best option is the ASRock, well, not the ASRock, but the Radeon RX 7700 XT. Depending on your country, you can change the brand, of course, and the model, but I think the chipset, this is the best one you can get. You get 12 gigabytes of VRAM and a very powerful GPU. Unfortunately, there is nothing NVIDIA close to this price and VRAM, because I wouldn't recommend the 4060 for this. And if you want NVIDIA, then you will have to spend around $80 to $100 more for the 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes, which is the next GPU with more VRAM than the 4060. So there is nothing before with 12 or something like that, and I wouldn't recommend anyone with a build like this going for a 8 gigabyte of VRAM card at this point. So that's the thing. So if you want to keep your budget on $1,000, then this is, for me, is the best option you can have. Also for the case, I upped the budget a little bit to $50 to $60. As I said, I don't care about the looks of the computer, I just care about the performance. And in this case, it's the Montech Air 903. I have a Montech myself, and it's a very good case. It has plenty of space. It comes with 3 fans and everything. So, but as I said, this is just a placeholder. This is just me giving you a little more of money. Of course, you can spend way more money on a case if you want to, but you know, only if it's not for the looks, then I don't see the point from my point of view, because mine is even hidden somewhere in my computer and I don't even see it, so I don't see the point on spending a lot of money on looks. But that's me. Of course, you are going to have in your last word. And we are keeping the same power supply because it's more than enough for this computer. We're not going to have any issues, and you can even get a more powerful GPU after, and you still have plenty of room to spare. So I think this is going to be a very nice computer, more powerful than any current gen console at the moment, and that is going to allow you to play at 1440p, no issues whatsoever, at 60 FPS from high settings most of the games. So yeah, this is from my point of view, the $1,000 computer gave you much more for your money than the $750 computer. But I understand that we have to adjust to our budgets. On that talking, I'm just going to give you this option, which just to show you the sacrifices you have to make in order, if you want a 4060 GPU, you want an NVIDIA GPU. So I wouldn't go for anything lower than 12 or 16 gigabytes of VRAM at this point, and for that you have to go to a 4060 Ti, which is going to cost you around $450, which means you have to go lower on some other parts. Like in this case, I had to go back to AM4 platform. I'm using the 5700X3D because the RAM, the motherboard, and the CPU were cheaper, allowing us to go and buy the 4060 for the same amount of money. In this case, a budget of $1,000. As you can see, I don't recommend this particular build because you're going to be on a all socket for this price. But that's up to you. I'm just giving you the option, but I think the previous one is much better than this one. So yeah, just take that into consideration. Okay, if your budget is a little bit higher, like $1,250, then there are some things you can improve from the previous build. In this case, I kept the CPU, the cooler, and the motherboard, but I added another 16 gigabytes of VRAM, but in this case we're using 32 gigabytes of VRAM CL36 from Patriot. Oh well, this is just, as I said, a price holder. In that case, whatever it fits your bill, but we can up the VRAM amount to 32 gigabytes. Also, I up the storage space from 1 terabyte to 2 terabytes, so there's more space to install all your games. As I said before, these are not the fastest drive around, but honestly I don't think you're going to notice a big difference, because I don't think either the OS, the Windows, or the games are actually taking advantage of all that speed, so this should be more than enough. And as you can see, the video card in this case is finally a proper NVIDIA GPU that for my money is better in terms of ray tracing and and DLSS, which is a technology that I prefer over FSR. And in this case you can see that is the more expensive component that we have here, and it's what's driving the price up. Also, I was able to add a 750 watts power supply, because I think that will give us a little bit more leeway if you want to change your CPU later on. Well, I have to say that for some of you may say that it's at this balance because the Ryzen 5 7600 is not that powerful. I think that CPU is more than enough for to move cope with the 4070 and using DLSS and even frame generation and all of that. I think this machine is made for 1440p above 60 FPS and even in some cases 4K. And the thing is that if you want to change the CPU later, you can, but also you see you have 32 gigabytes of VRAM, more space, and the 7600X is going to give you plenty of gaming performance. However, if you would like to have a better CPU, then you can go for the 7700X with 8 cores, or for the 7800X 3D, and then you, instead of a 4070, you can go, for example, with the same AMD RX 7700, or maybe depending on the prices of your country, for at the 7800X. Yeah, 7800X. But of course, I'm trying to be on the budget, and this one, as you can see here, is 1250. So I think this is a very good system, okay? And you can play a little bit with some of the components, but this is a system that is going to surpass any current gen, and this is master race level. You are already surpassed, and the peasant console systems, and you can play your games at qualities that the console are not even going to be close. Maybe the PlayStation 5 Pro, but even then the CPU that you have here is more powerful than whatever is going to come on that system. So yeah, I think this is a nice system for anyone wanting to spend around that amount of money. Okay, my friends, and now we have got to the point where you are a truly PC master race, and you can see your friends with their peasant consoles and say, please don't talk to me, I am PC master race. And it's because the budget of this one is $1,500, and when you get to that kind of money, you are talking serious business. However, many people say that you need to spend like $2,000 just to get close to the gaming performance of a console, which obviously is not true. And this is, yes, it's 3 times more expensive than a console, okay, but it's also much more performant, okay. So you can see I have made many upgrades here, because now we had $250 extra, and those really give you a lot. For example, we go now to the 7800X 3D directly, which is the best CPU you can have right now for gaming, okay, not for productivity, because you can go to the 7950X, which is 16 cores. This is 8, but for gaming is a beast, so you don't need anything to worry, and it's going to last you a very long time. As for CPU cooling, I spent a little bit more money just to have that beast tame and happy, and I went for around $80 on the CPU cooler with the Dark Rock Pro. The motherboard, I also went a little bit ahead and put the B650, because I don't think you need to spend like so much money on a motherboard, okay? Like going to the highest chips or anything. This motherboard is more than enough for all the needs we are going to be, at least with this build. You have Wi-Fi, you have all, like 3 NVMe ports and everything. So for $150, you can buy a very good AM5 motherboard. We are leaving the same 32 gigabytes of RAM, because that's more than enough for all your needs in terms of streaming, gaming, browsing, everything that you need. This is more than enough. For storage, just the same 2 terabytes. That's a lot of space for your system, games, and everything. So I don't think you need anything more. Once again, it's not the fastest drive, but I don't think you're going to notice. And the video card here, I went for the RX 7900 GRE, because I think that's the best value for money GPU on the market right now, if that's what you're looking for. I understand some people want Nvidia and just Nvidia, and then they don't care about paying extra, but because I have to be sensitive with the build, then from my point of view, this is the more attractive GPU. It's going to allow you to play at very high quality levels of performance with high resolutions, more than 60 FPS, 120 depending on the game and so on, and you're going to have a very good experience with this GPU. I think it's very well done by AMD, and it's a card that is very well worth it. So I have one more build that I'm going to show you just by going to Nvidia, just to show you how much money you have to put on if you want to go to Nvidia. And hey, I don't have anything to say against Nvidia. I have a 4090 myself, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't, or that you should be more intelligent when spending your money. I obviously am not, but because these builds I'm trying to be sensitive, my recommendation will be something like this. But of course, it's your money, and at the end of the day, you can choose anything you want. This is just a guide. So for the case, once again, I left the same because everything I put here is compatible, and that's the amount of money I will spend. I don't care about the case. One more, I don't care about looks. I just care, you know, a case that is well ventilated. That's enough for me, and that case is. And finally, it's the same power supplies, because well, 750 watts, it's more than enough for this build, even if you choose a more powerful GPU. Okay, and finally, the last build, can we call it that? This is not like a last build really, it's just more of me showing you how much extra money you have to put if you want a Nvidia GPU instead of the AMD GPU. And as you can see, you have to go around $200 more, and the reason for that is because the 4070 Ti Super is the first GPU out of the 4060, which makes no sense in a build like this that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. You can go for a 4070 or a 4070 Ti, which is going to save you or put you in the same park around as the 7900 GRE, but you are only getting 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and that's the reason I decided to go in this case for the 61, just to make things as similar as possible. Of course, the 4070 Ti Super is more powerful than the 7900 GRE, but I don't know if those extra $200 are justified here, but I wanted to present it to you depending on your choices, because well, I know some people prefer Nvidia, some people prefer their DLSS technology, some people prefer their ray tracing technology. That's me, and unfortunately that's why I end up paying more, because I do care about ray tracing, but some people don't, so they will do a lot better by just staying with AMD and the 7900 GRE or 7800 or 7900 XT, depending on the prices on your country. But as you can see here, it's quite expensive. This one's one of the cheapest 4070 Ti Super that I could find. So as you can see, yeah, going Nvidia has a tax on top of everything that is going to cost you $200, but this is what I presented. So anyway, I hope this sort of guide help you understand what is out there, how or where to invest your money. These are decisions that I would have taken if I was building the computer, depending on my budget. So I'm giving you what I would have done. I know many of you are going to probably say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? This is, you know, putting a computer together is an art, and everybody has different priorities. Maybe somebody preferred to have a cheaper motherboard and put more VRAM, or worse CPU and more GPU. It depends on your needs and everything. This is just a guide. Don't take it personally. It's nothing against you. I don't know how to build computers better than you, because you know what your needs are and the prices in your country better than me. But I thought that this was going to be a good exercise for you to have an idea from an external person, and maybe validate some of your own thoughts and say, oh yeah, I was thinking of building that, and I see you agree with that. So yeah, I think it's a good choice on what I'm doing. So all I wanted was to help you, and I hope as always that if you like this video, you like, subscribe, and do all those things, sharing, that will help me grow, and maybe, you know, keep bringing you content like this. So thank you very much, and see you on the next video.